Welcome back, guys. Another episode of RX Radio. Super excited to have our guest on today. Mathew and I connected at an event years ago now. Feels crazy to say that, getting old. In Dallas, both spoke at an event and been sort of following along journey ever since. Coach, educator, professor, does it at the highest level. Really can't say enough good things about Mathew. Ibrahim, our guest today. I hope I pronounced that right. I'm just trying to parrot exactly how he said it on the podcast. But Matt sort of does it all from all angles, which I think is one of the hallmarks of a really good coach, is being able to see it both from the technical and tactical. And this guy gets it across the board. A lot of people fly the flag of educator without the experience, both within the thing they are teaching and the education space itself. And he lives and breathes it as an adjunct professor, as a clinical coordinator. And plus he still, makes the time every week to get on the gym floor and crush the reps and sets with the team. So, huge shout out for Matt for taking the time. Just the energy off this dude. You see the X factor with these high level coaches. I know in the last couple of months we've had, like the Rushmore of coaches, strength coaches on the podcast. And I definitely put Matt there on a modern day Mount Rushmore of coaching, coaches and educators. So you guys do get the chance. Be sure to check out Matt on IG handles in the show notes. So huge thanks to Matt for coming out, spreading a little bit of his insight and wisdom. An hour is just never going to be enough for a guy like that. So huge thanks for him for hopping on the show. A lot of questions around the Prescript Level 1 course. Start date again is May 27th. If you guys haven't got your name on the wait list, be sure to do that. It's the only discount we offer. So if you head on over to www.pre-script.com, put your name on the wait list, be the first to be notified when course registration goes up for sale. And it's the only discount we're going to offer. So if you guys are interested in the course, head on over to the website, put your email in, and you'll be the first to notify when the next semester of L1 goes live. And for those of you asking, current L1s and L2s, current L2s, the registration for the Prescript Level 3 course, which is a 6-day event that we hold in Tampa Bay, Florida, in June. We will be running it alongside off-season NFL veterans. So you're going to be coaching face-to-face, real-time athletes that you're watching on Sunday night or Thursday night or Monday night in the NFL season, some real mainstay players in the league, and you get to go out and cut your teeth as far as your coach's eye, your communication skills, your X's and O's, the technical and tactical with the best athletes in the world. That's what we're all about here at Prescript, bringing the best coaches to the best athletes. So guys, if you want to get involved in the Prescript Level 1, Level 2, Level 3 system, that is what's waiting at the end. That is the final boss, is can you do it live in the highest stakes environment in our profession? So you want to be the man, beat the man. So come on out. L1 starts May 27th. L3, for those asking who are currently in the L2 curriculum, this is going to be up for sale soon. And the L3 semester will be going live with NFL veterans in Tampa, Florida, last 2 weeks of June, 2 cohorts back to back there. So, get involved. If you're looking to get involved now, you could be eligible for January's L3 down in Tampa. So now, if you're looking to start, get on the wait list, get involved. So go through L1, L2, and then we'll see you at L3. Without any further ado, Mathew, huge thanks, brother. Lundy, hit it.
You're tuned in to RX Radio.
This has been a long time coming, man. I feel like Dallas was like yesterday, and it was 2020. Was it 2020?
2022. That was the first.
Okay.
I don't know how you found out, but I feel like Nate Barunda, who was an unknown to me, no disrespect to Nate, I love Nate, he's great, but like he just completely snuck into my DMs. I don't know if he did the same for you. And I was like, who is this guy? I was like, is this a hoax? Is this fake? And he reached out, and I was like, all right, like this seems legit.
Yeah, I don't know when I first crossed paths with Nate, because I remember when it was Mamba. When it was Mamba Sports Academy, and then obviously the passing of Kobe. But I got to say, I've done and maybe we'll plug Nate quick. I've done a handful of events before and since, and what they did at Official Sports Academy was probably one of the coolest venues I've ever spoke at.
Oh, super dope.
It was so Texas, though. It was like this big I felt like Joel Olstein. I felt like a televangelist. I felt like I was out there spreading the good word. And it was funny because, like, I don't know, I joke about doing a handful of venues pre and post. Like, I feel like all I do is education. And then I look at you and go, no, I don't. No, I don't. But Matt
It's
does
different though.
education.
No, it's Jordan. It's different though. I mean, like even in the classroom now, and I hate using the word classroom because I look at it as like a weight room or a learning room. It's it's like the old, and it's funny as I'm talking to you, my phone is on a phone stand because my Google Chrome was out of date. It says so. I use my phone, and it's on top of a freaking textbook. It's like the old school textbook way of education and learning is so out the window now. Like in our classrooms, and I know in a lot of good education programs or Cairo or PT or SNC XFiz, they're inside a weight room, inside a human performance labs, and that's where the students need to learn hands on. They can't just think about the stuff; they have to do the stuff.
Now, I mean, maybe we'll backpedal for those of you just joining the conversation. Like, where did you ever? I mean, maybe a little bit of background, obviously, like the boilerplate shit, like who you are, how you got here, and all that. But I'm digging a little bit past that. Did you ever see yourself when you were going through your education, ending up in education?
Yes, and I say that in a weird face because I mean, to me, like I look at coaching, and I'm sure you can attest to this. When I'm coaching or when you're coaching, we're educating, we're instructing, we're guiding, we're giving feedback. It's kind of like in the same loop. So to me, although I'm in academia full time, I still view myself as a coach. I've done it for 16 years. So the thing that struck for me was I sucked as a student. Like I've been a student since 2007, bachelor's 6 years, licensed in massage, master's degree, PhD, finished up in August, and my second master's right now as well. It's like I've always been a student. So for me, I was like, hey, I need to pay it forward to the student who's not doing well. I mean, it took me 6 years to get undergrad, which I don't recommend for anyone, but it gave me a lot of life lessons. If I don't fucking know anatomy by now, then I am a problem.
Jesus, you're like the exercise physiology Van Wilder. That's insane. 6 years?
It's a great movie, by
Holy.
the way.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, to wind it back, 16 years. I guess when you got into it, what's been the major thing you've seen in like the applied science side of strength and conditioning from when you started off cutting your teeth 16 years ago and now? What do you see being like the primary difference, both good or bad?
The old school model is like, I don't know if you remember this, but it's like you try fold the 8 by 11 piece of paper and you put it in the front of your pant, you fold it over type thing with like, shorts are raised up high, shirts tucked in, super militant. And now it's like, hey, like we can be chill and still get the job done when we coach. A more relaxed tone, not as much militant, but as you know, like the sports science, the technology has been a big thing. Everyone and their mother needs to have a force plate, this, and that. And I totally see the value for using technology, but I feel like some people sometimes they just get inundated with the data and because it's cool and it's new, but they lost the art of actually coaching someone, like actually coaching someone through something versus talking about numbers. And I know that's an oversimplification of things, but I just feel like, hey, it should be simple, coach, effect, get results, move in, move out.
Now, I mean, in the last 16 years, you bring up technology, like the adoption of tech in strength and conditioning has been undeniable, whether it's Catapult, whether it's Force Plate and other GPS softwares with Nord boards, all that. How do you how did you initially appraise the utility of tech? Were you an early adopter to some of these? Because you would have been in the weight room when the first time one of these was sort of piloted. Like, how is your approach to tech in strength and conditioning? How has it changed since its first inception?
Yeah, for me, like I was always super apprehensive. I was like, yeah, I'm all set. I'm just gonna get my pen and pad and coach. I'm gonna program. I'm gonna educate. Like super apprehensive. But for me, like in the Northeast, as you know, in Boston, as we were joking about earlier, it's saturated with S&C gyms, chiro clinics, PT clinics. There's a lot of performance professionals in our area. So the more and more that I met up with D1, D2, D3 colleges, performance training facilities, sports rehab facilities, I mean, everyone began to use it and piqued my interest. For us at the college, so technically, so I work at Endicott College. It's in quote unquote Boston, totally in Beverly. I technically work on the academic side. I volunteer on the athletic side, S&C coach, consultant, whatever you want to call me. And they have access to a good amount of technology like Hawk and Dynamics force plates. We've been discussions with Vault. I think they have the 1080 motion. There's a bunch of gadgets. And so I'm more or less learning from their director of AP, their head S&C, assistant S&C, and kind of taking that and then running with it.
Now, on the tech side, what do you like? How do you rank order the tech you use? Like, what do you prioritize from a data perspective? Because I think there's two conversations when, like I guess the conversation is geared towards someone who's listening to this who's looking to get in S&C, because I think there's two approaches. There's technical and there's tactical, right? Like, you need to know how to communicate up and down the chain as a strength coach at a higher level, and especially in collegiate settings, especially at the pro level. And unfortunately, when you start to look at people who make decisions around numbers, and meaning dollar signs, they only speak in numbers, right? So, the wins and losses are usually where people start, and then looking to quantify the process all the way down. So how do you communicate the value of tech to coaches who might either be a little overzealous about the utility of tech, young kids in their TikTok coming into the weight room with all of their, and like, how do you put it in perspective where it's like, hey, look, we need some of this because at some point an AD is going to come in, or a general manager is going to come in, or a head coach is going to come in who doesn't know anything about anything, and you're going to have to be like 7.3 meters per second. Yeah. That's faster than 6.2 meters per second. Got it? Okay, good. Practice. Say that back. Right? Like, what does the conversation look like? Because I feel like, a lot of strength coaches or aspiring strength coaches listening to this, they don't know how to contextualize the information for both technical and tactical.
Jordan, I think simple wins. And I know that's such a cop-out. Shout out to Starbucks for the plug. For me, it's like, if I can't communicate or articulate something, and I don't understand it, how the fuck am I going to get you to understand it, right? Like, give me this. Like, that's all I need. If you get this as the output, just give me this. Give me a 1 or 2 liner. So I think in the conversation, if you're the strength coach, or even if you're going on the sports med side, how do you communicate that in layman's simple, like, give me like a 10-second elevator pitch. If you can't do that, then it's too much for you, and you need to go back to step one. So I just think keep it simple is the number one thing, like short and sweet.
Do you have advice you find yourself giving young coaches, students most often? Because you're in a unique intersection of, being on the academic side, but looking to really, and I hate to use the term because it's just used ad nauseum, bridging the gap between the research. Like, what is the thing you like? If I could just laminate a card like the Joker and just hand it to every kid that walked in the door, what would it say?
I know this might sound cheesy, but like 3 words: be yourself. I know that's like, again, that can go many different directions, but I meet with students and athletes on a daily basis, whether it's advising, internship, because we run 3 internships for the 4-year degree, not 1. It's required 3, so it's a very unique model. So 3 internships. There's advising, there's athletes, there's student athletes, there's students for class, and everyone is just trying to do too much. Like, just be yourself, just fucking chill, take a deep breath. Like, it's gonna be okay. Just be yourself. That's the most important thing. I see a lot of these students and athletes trying to be someone or something they're not. This is not me saying don't aspire to be, but just go out there, be yourself. It'll be easier in the end in that regard.
So, kind of dovetailing off the conversation of technology in the weight room, I think the most pervasive and invasive piece of tech that we've seen in the last 15 years when it comes to strength and conditioning is social media. How have you, and it's difficult, like, because it's in the S&C world, it's tough to navigate running a session and running a business. In academia, there's limitations. How have you managed that and managed it so successfully? With, obviously you have a big social media presence as a strength coach, as an educator, but also like dealing with the bureaucratic red tape. Like, what's your overall view of social media in the S&C world as someone who is like resistant to, sports performance technology? I could imagine that, Instagram was probably like, nah.
Yeah, for me, that was part of my sales pitch in my interview for this job, Jordan. So this position, like, I've been in the private sector, I've been adjunct, I've been like, I'm a mutt. I've been in a lot of different settings in S&C, PT clinics, chiro clinics, healthcare settings, even the senior assisted living center as a group exercise instructor. Write that down.
Shut your mouth. Run a geriatric Zumba
and down and
Stop.
Up. And
Dude,
sort of go,
what a Swiss Army knife. What a Swiss Army knife.
Dude, I'm telling you, I've never learned more than I learned from that population. I know people watching this like, oh, well, you're working in athletic performance, like that's bull. Like, I'm telling you, you learn a lot of different things with a lot of different people, especially that population. But for me, part of my sales pitch to the college was, all right, this is a hybrid role. There's internship, coordinating, there's talking to prospective S&C sites, PT sites, chiropractic sites, there's garnering relationships, there's going networking, there's advising, there's teaching. Basically, you want me to do a bunch of shit that I'm already doing. If you're going to bring me in, I also have a side business or businesses, plural, and you need to be cool with that in lesser words. And they were completely cool with that. I obviously can't solicit my stuff in the classroom, but when a student hits me up on Instagram, which is, is outside of the classroom, it's what am I supposed to do? That's outside of the territory of the 9 to 5. So for me, it was like, I'm not the best, I'm not the smartest, far from, but I'm very fucking good at organizational skills. Like, I'm very good at time management. So for me, being able to manage all those things, like my schedule, and I'm sure you're the same because you're traveling a bunch, you have to be organized. My schedule is like blocked out, color coordinated every day. And some people think that's OCD, but like, I never miss a meeting. I'm always on time. I get my stuff done. I hit due dates. So I think those skills cater themselves well to running or doing multiple things versus someone who, these people like, hey bro, I'm tired. Like, all right, I work a 9 to 5. That's all you're doing. Great. You have a smaller plate. That's okay. I just have a bigger plate. Doesn't mean I'm better or smarter. It's just I do better with a lot on my plate.
Was that something that you were always tended to behaviorally, or is that something you sort of adapted and adopted over time?
I would say behaviorally. I mean, my father's from the Middle East, so Lebanon. He's Lebanese, Armenian, and Arabic. That's the Ibrahim. My
I knew
mom,
I fucking liked you. Yo, Lev, shout out. Yo, we're gonna have Knefe after this. What? What are we talking about?
dude, it's my favorite thing of all time. My grandma,
People don't know.
my mama used to make it from scratch. Now I'm hungry. But so he came here alone at 16 because she was in the hospitality business. She ran hotels in Lebanon, and his father was in the car sales industry. So sales, selling, service, and he's owned a salon for over 40 years. So he's in the service industry. My mom came here as an immigrant from Italy, from Calabria, when she was 9 with her 4 siblings, her mom and dad. So like that kind of like head down, hard work mentality, that's always just been in me. And it's kind of how I've always operated.
Lebanese people could literally sell you the shoes you're wearing on your feet. Like you go to Beirut, god damn.
Yeah.
So now how do you impart that, right? Because I think there is a hybrid strength coach, social media presence, educator that's very fetching, right? Like I think of you, I think of Meg Young, I think of Corey Schlesinger, I think of Max Schmarzo, right? Like modern day sort of Mount Rushmore.
Ramsey.
Oh, Ramsey, yeah, absolutely, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
what a pedigree coming out of Sacramento, then going to the Jayhawks, like, and there's a cohort. I don't want to say underneath them, but coming up, and they want to do that. Yeah. For you, if you were to maybe list 4 or 5 attributes that you think were integral and maybe rank order them, like, all right, if you're an up and coming coach, right, you're cutting your teeth in a high school setting, maybe you're doing some stuff in the private sector, maybe you got some clients who are coming out of going into a college or something like that. The intangibles that you need to evolve in this industry are bam.
Good questions, by the way, Jordan. And I can tell you didn't write these down. You're a cerebral guy.
It's the coffee, dog. Shout
They're
out
floating
Starbucks.
in the atmosphere.
That's it. That's it.
Number one, and this piggybacks off of yourself. Authenticity. If you are not who you say you are, act as you are, like people are gonna see through the bullshit. And that to me is the most important thing. Be authentic. Like that has to be, and that has to be your message too. Like I'll screw up all the time in some of my IG videos when I shoot with my videographer or we put the videos. I'm like, no, keep it. Like I don't care if I mumble or screw. Like just fucking keep it. Like it's relatability. Like it should be raw. So be authentic. Number 2, care. And like I don't mean like the emotion. I mean if I can't tell by your ethos that you care about what you're doing, you care about your athletes, you care about the results, you care about the performance, you care about keeping them healthy. If I can't tell that just from your ethos and from how you act, then you shouldn't be doing it, right? So be authentic. You got to care a lot about what you're doing. You said 5. Shit, this is tough. Okay. Biggest, most important thing is detail oriented, and I don't mean like be a stats geek or a stats nerd. Just like there's details to everything. So like the good example, like in your world it's eval, in my world it's assessment. It's the same thing. We're looking under the hood of the car, see what's going on. We'll do a diagnosis and then run from there. The devil's in the details. You have to be extremely detail oriented. So when you're putting out content, and I know this is an Instagram question or social media, when you're putting out content, think of like, what's the message I'm trying to convey? And what are the details that the consumer, like when I post, sure, I'm super happy if Jordan Shallow gives me a like. I care more if a consumer, what up, dog? I care more if a consumer, someone that I'm selling something to or educating someone to, likes it. And like that to me is more meaningful. That should be like who you're sending the message to. So it's detail oriented. Number four, this is really freaking tough. Number four is sell. And I think that word, like, it kind of feels sleazy. When I'm coaching Jordan through a squat, I'm selling to Jordan the technique or the way to do a squat. I'm selling him that exercise. Like, people forget that. Like, oh, well, I'm an S&C collegiate. Like, this is, it's not the way we roll. Like, dude, if you're in private, S&C doesn't, or the collegiate or pro, you're selling something. It is, we need to get comfortable with that. The fifth one is, geez, you got me against the wall here. I'm pinned. The fifth one, so it's authentic. You got to care, detail oriented, sell, be nice. Like, just literally be nice to people. Like, okay, I went to the Bruins game with Charlie Weingroff on Tuesday. I
Wow.
put a post out there like 10, it was like 11, 12 years ago. I used to have, my brand name was Mobility 101, I think it was. And my wife surprised me and got, I don't know if you remember the Boston Sports Medicine Performance Group seminars. I was at Northeastern. Art Horn, when he's with the Celts, when he was at Northeastern, he used to run them. Like, a bunch of people would go. Sea-Wagon would always go. And he was like, this is when he was like much bigger in powerlifting. And he was like he was the rock star at the time for me. And fast forward to now, like, like I'm friendly with him. We speak at Perform Better. Like, I'm super grateful. But to me, it's like, just being raw with information and putting the material out there and being okay with, like, just being vulnerable but being nice as well. Because I never forget his Training Equals Rehab DVD seminar, or a series. It was, I don't know, it was a long time ago. It's when DVDs were a thing. He literally opens up and says, if you reach out to me, if you message me, if you DM me, private, whatever, I will get back to you. I'll get back to all. I was like, damn, that's fucking powerful. Like, that busy of a guy. So for me, how can I be nice to someone on social? Like, hit them up. If they DM back. Like, just be nice to all people. I think that's a very underrated skill. And I hate that we're calling it a skill, but in today's society, like, being nice is like, holy shit, like, they opened the door for me. Wow, they said thank you,
That's great. I would add a six, and it's your ability to think on your feet. Because I gave you, because we deal with teach. Because it's like I gave you a task, and rather than saying I'm going to give you three or I'm going to give you one, you're like, okay, it's five. And it's funny because I think all of those things, like the sort of the meta principle of all of those things, is like you have to be able to do it live. Like, and the nice part about athletes, as opposed to, we bring coaches in who are used to training general population, right? And and I tell them, look, we're going to be in a room with pro athletes or aspiring pro athletes, soon to be pro athletes, and it's not about the skills you learn in a setting in an athletic weight room as opposed to a general population 24-hour fitness gym floor. Is like, it takes your skill set and puts it in a pressure cooker. Right. It takes your lapses in communication that go unnoticed between you and, the stay-at-home dad with the two kids. You don't notice a lapse in communication, right? You don't notice the lack of progress. You don't notice the inefficiencies in your schedule. But when you have an athlete, they, like, especially with the first one, like, no one will pick you apart emotionally like an 18-year-old athlete. Like, no one knows who you are at your soul. Like, you walk into a room and the guy's like, nah, you're not it. Like, it's like you're a kid again, just trying to be cool. And like, I really hope, do you think he likes me? Like, do you think he likes me? And it's such an interesting proving ground because, you have to have all five of those things that you listed. But I think the most important one is you have to have an ability to think on your feet and get a job done. Right. I'm such a proponent of, like, we have a coach, Killian Hamilton, who kind of goes on a diatribe about this, and the importance. Oh, dude, I always think of the scene in Ocean's 11 where he's like, "Hey, if they look up, they don't know the answer, and if you look down, they know you're lying." And it's like, that's coaching. It's just like, what's next? This. Are you sure? Yep. Just an unwavering confidence. Now, coming out of, like, the last 16 years, what has you most optimistic? What about our field and the way it's evolved has you like, hey, the next 16 years is going to be this particular subset of what it means to be a strength and conditioning coach will improve from its current state or will evolve into something new that we don't know what it is? What like gets you out of bed in the morning now?
To be honest with you, like this is probably like out of left field. I'm physically like involved with the next generation of professionals. Like, I'm with them every day, like 18 to 24 year olds, both in my classroom, in my mentorship, and when we travel and speak. Like I'm talking to them. What I see, like, which is huge. We know for the majority of S&C coaches, there it's like incredibly underpaid. Not for all, but overworked, underpaid. The collegiate sector, like we know this is a big thing, right? The up and coming professionals or the next generation, like they don't give a what. They're like, oh, you're not paying me what I'm worth. I'm gonna move on. And I think some people might look at that and say, well, that's you're not being loyal. And I would say, all right, like I can appreciate that. Like the old school model, like, well, son, well, daughter, I worked 35 years at this place and I retired. Like that doesn't exist anymore. There's so many opportunities in the world, online, in person, et cetera, et cetera. I think the next generation they're more, I wouldn't say the word hungry, but they're willing to cut bait and move on and not really care. And so my hope is that pushes for, I guess, more capital for the industry is a way to look at that. I mean, I know for me, I've probably had like 14, 15 different jobs in my career. I don't advise that for anyone, but you got to keep moving on and know your value.
Now, with that, and this is something that I get posed a lot, is the most talented coaches and the most talented athletes rarely are in a position where they find each other. And I don't know how to answer the question when just recently we got access to, I'm not going to name the team, but a Major League Baseball team off-season program. Friend of mine, he's sitting in the back room somewhere. Baxter, shout out Coach Bax. And we were reviewing it, and it's like a 3-day-a-week 6 exercise circuit, A series, B series, C series. And it's for like an all-star in Major League Baseball. And we're both kind of sitting there scratching our head going, how is it that a coach that lacks this level of depth or care or all of the 5 things you just listed found its way into what? Fenway Park or wherever the hell, like Wrigley Field. I don't fucking know baseball. But like, how do you take, because you deal with people who are going about it the right way, right? There's a path to this road, and some people can circumvent the path, and some people can leverage networks without the formal education and get to that end goal, and almost seem like they're shortchanging the people who did it the old-fashioned way, right? How do you advise those students, or what do you say to those students who are coming up, the right way, if you will, and they're frustrated by the seemingly the crowd that's like skipping the queue, that's ending up in these places with these opportunities that most of these kids would like kill for, but they didn't go about it, 3 internships in an undergrad program, go through the mentorships. Like, what do you say? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's the politics of it, right? Like it's any industry. And I mean, that's always going to exist. Like there's always going to be that kid who knows that guy who gets that first internship at a pro team his freshman year in college and then lands that full-time position right out of, you're like, what the fuck is this guy? That's always going to be. That's always going to be. Like my big thing is like focus on you. Focus on you. Like stay in your lane. Like what are you doing right now? And so to the young buck or young bucks like looking to make it and they're frustrated, they're pissed off, they're what about him? What about like just stay there, like tunnel vision, like absolute tunnel vision, and like write your goals down. And I know that sounds super cliche and also like physically write your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 year goals down. Write your 10-year goals down. Make them scare you. Write them down, but also how are you going to execute? Like don't just write down, hey, I want to get I'll use a good example, undergrad. Hey, I want to get my NSCA CSCS. Great. Call them. What's the price? What's the student rate? How long is it going to take? What are the materials? How many like give me the full rundown of what you're going to do to execute that goal. Don't just write the goal down, like become it. And so I think having tunnel vision, writing things down, having an accountability partner. That accountability partner might be the goals that you write down on paper. Like it might be, hey, Jordan, you're my accountability partner. Like you're going to hold me accountable in that. Just the same way a coach would an athlete or a client in the weight room. And so I think it's just, you really have to be convicting in what you want to do. Like your conviction, your belief of what you can do, your skill set is really important. And we talked a little bit about this earlier, execution, conviction. Like to me, when I'm volunteering, I'm putting air quotes up in the weight room, Head S&C coach is a dear friend of mine. The director of AP is a dear friend. Like they're like, yep, no problem. Do whatever you want to do. I step aside and I'm letting the two assistant S&C coaches run the show. Like, and it's super interesting, right? Because I'm used to running it, but I'm like, hey, let them run. Tell me where to be. I'll go do it. And I'm like, step the fuck up. Like, assert yourself. Like, there should be conviction in your voice, in your eyes, the eye contact with that athlete to do what you need to do. 1, 2, 3, and go. It shouldn't be, well, you know, you got to just get in there and do it. And so I think tunnel vision is important, writing your goals down, having conviction in your skill set. And this is not saying being cocky or arrogant or BSing someone. But if you like Eric Thomas isn't as big as he used to be now. Like E.T. the hip hop preacher, I used to watch so many of his videos 10, 12 years ago. I would like literally like up at night on YouTube, like, oh my god, yeah, write that down, say that. And a lot of what he talked about, it's still that was infused in me. And so you need to have conviction in your skill set. You can't control how much you they can't control how much you practice at something. And that's the thing where I think younger generation is lacking at. They just want to get there right away. If you can practice at it, that's a skill set you can develop. You'll always have that.
How do you factor the intangible side, like kind of what you said? I'm a huge advocate of delivery, and I think social media is a great proving ground to kind of get your sound bites so that when you are in the room, like it's straight to the brow line and everyone understands the mission. How do you factor that piece into your day-to-day, right? Everything you talked about when you were highlighting your color-coded calendar, and I'm looking at my Google Calendar on the other side of this massive screen here. But like, how do you allocate the time to focus on those, like, you know, in maybe indirect tasks? Like, what does a day in the life look like? How do you focus on not only professional development and, you know, staying up with tech and trends and all that best practices, but also like, all right, like I still got to bring the best Matt to the table.
You there? You froze for a second.
Yeah. No. So how do you bring, like, how do you prioritize some of those things that might not be so directly like linked? Like, what does a day in the life look like for you? So to make sure that you're checking all the boxes in the day to day, but you're also future proofing yourself. Like, how do you stay, you know, kind of how do you stay grounded in this process to make sure that you're still going to have that conviction, 5 years from now, 10 years from now?
Great question. I'll break this down by this. So if you want to know a day in the life, you probably don't, because it's probably similar to yours, how early and how late. But how do I continue to learn, to be honest with you, selfishly through others that I'm around? So learning from my students, the faculty that I work alongside, the coach I work alongside. I DM more people than you could probably imagine asking them questions on IG, on LinkedIn. I'll read Sportsmith is good, Science for Sport is good. Any evidence-based research articles, I have to do it in the PhD, but I prefer like something quicker sometimes. So just reading some of those, watching YouTube videos. I have probably 500 books, maybe 3 of which I've read. My wife makes fun of me all the time because I don't have quote unquote time. I will get to them eventually when the PhD is done soon. So just continuously learning through whatever I have accessible in front of me, but not just learning it, going to apply it. Like, it's cool to read. It's better to apply, in my opinion. At least for me, I'm a hands-on learner. That's how I continue to learn. Also, going to events. Like, when I go to events and I'm grateful to have the opportunity to speak, like, I'm literally going to sit there in front row while you're speaking. I want to learn from you too. Like I get to learn. That's great. Like, that's awesome. I want to go learn. I think, like, I was at a stall probably October, November. Like, I have a coach, writes my online program. He's a good buddy of mine. Shout out to Joe Aratari, upstate New York, near Rochester, and close to Canada, as you know.
We are not the same.
We are not the same. So, he writes my program, lift, sprint, jump, whatever, every week, agility. But like, I was at a stall, so I started doing jujitsu. It's been 3 months as of last Saturday. And dude, let me tell you, like, the amount of mental reps that you're getting in, to me, it's amazing. That's been my mental health. That's been my decompression the past 3 months. Like, just getting that energy out. Learning a ton. Go ahead.
Well, no, it brings up an interesting point because it's like almost hard to have a conversation around coaching and doing it the right way, being judicious, first in, last out. And I try and almost avoid the conversation entirely, but the conversation around burnout is always something that, And it's like, I don't know, lawyers do cocaine or drink or whatever, but like every profession has a certain limit. But something about strength coaching in general, or more specifically, that conversation seems to bubble to the surface more. And maybe it's just our proximity. Maybe it's all we know. It's a world we live in. But how do you advise against either proactively trying to avoid like quote unquote burnout? What's your overall take on that in the profession?
Have days off and like have boundaries, like have non-negotiables. I burnt out my 32nd birthday, January 19th, 2022. So that year when I came out with you guys, I was technically jobless and getting married in September. When I came out to Sports Academy, like I was basically a nomad in my car training people. I mean, they were in wealthy homes. I had 5 families I was training in home. Some of the athletes, some of the clients. I was working as an adjunct at 2 universities, and I was a PhD student. And like somehow we managed to get married, like financially. So just the big thing for me, burnout was, the obvious: too many hours, underpaid, et cetera, et cetera. But like you have no days off. Like anyone working at S&C, it's not 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. It's like 5 or 6 a.m. to 10, 11, then 3 to 7 or 8, Monday through Friday. Then there's the Saturday shift. Bro, it's no big deal. It's only a Saturday, like 8 to 12. But then like your fucking half day's gone. And they're hitting you up, emailing you over the weekend. Like, when do you take a day off? When do you take time off? When do you decompress? What do you do? And dude, I hate this word. Absolutely hate the word, but self-care. I mean, it's seen in different varieties. Like, do you go out and like walk in the woods for like vitamin D and mental health and get some fresh air? Like you're stuck in these 4 walls with Taylor Swift fucking blaring for like 7, 8, 9, 10 hours a day. Like, how do you get out of that? How do you what do you do? No, bro, I'm good. I'm gonna grind. Like, please, like, cut it out. Like, what, to me, and that's the conversation of working smarter and being more efficient and executing. I have good friends of mine that are like, how do you do so many things in the amount of time you do it? I'm like, I just fucking execute. I don't overthink things. Just do the thing. I think when you're in S&C, like, it's this badge of honor, dude. It's like, and Brett talks about it all the time in his AOC. Like, I fucking love Brett. It's like, strip the badge of honor. Like, this is like, how are you gonna have, like, you're gonna have kids someday, right? Like, I want to be there for my kids' soccer games and basketball games on the weekends. I don't want to be, I'm at the gym till 3. Sorry, I can't make it. Like, that's BS. Like, there has to be a growth. I think there's a good book. I forget the name of it. I do this all the time. There's an audio book to listen to, but it's like, do you want to continue to be the technician, or do you want to be like the next step, the manager, the manager, the leader, the director of things? All coaches, in my experience, talking to a lot of D1 through D3 coaches, they want to continue to be the technician. Like, yeah, you're a great coach. Awesome. What else can you do? So that, to me, I think it's lost on younger up and coming coaches. But yeah.
Do you feel like I don't know, I'm fucking stubborn and I'm old. So how do you, because I feel like the only lessons worth learning are hard lessons to learn. Right.
Yeah.
Like if anyone comes to me, like burnout to me is like overtraining. It's like, have you ended up in the hospital? No. Then you haven't overtrained. You ended up in the hospital? Nope. But you haven't burnt out. I'm kind of that, like, hey, you kind of got to earn your scars. Because I just, whenever I talk to people who are in positions and they're up and coming and they're not willing to go to the bottom, they're not willing to, and this is not medical advice, just so we're all real clear here. Like I see it. Well, I just see a correlation between those who are like willing to prove it to themselves that like, hey, I care enough about this that I'll die. Because like, yeah, maybe if you probably shouldn't do that, but like, do you feel like that conversation potentially nerfs work ethic in the up and coming coaches?
100%. 100%. Like, dude, okay, Friday, right? I'm in a position where I talk to a lot of fucking people in that 20 to 25 age range, S&C. A lot of people reach out, and I don't say this in the like. I talk to people, they talk to me. On Friday, I personally know 3 coaches. I'm not saying where they work. One called me, said she's leaving full-time S&C to go into a full-time pro athlete sport. I'm not going to name the sport because it's going to be an obvious giveaway. So leaving, all right? I got another full-time S&C coming in from the sport of football. So she wants to become a full-time S&C and land in a position Friday. And I got another person calling me saying, hey, I've done it for 2 years full-time. I'm 24 years old. I'm going to go into healthcare. I'm going to go into completely different healthcare sales, like medical sales. So one in, one out, another one out. And it's like, I don't know what's going on here. Like, and who am I to judge, right? But this all happened in a matter of 3 hours on Friday. I get these 3 phone calls, and it's like, what? And this is the word volatility proper? Like the field is just doing this right now, and I think, and this is one of the reasons why we see like six pack Sammy and Abby Ass on Instagram always showing skin, and it's like I kind of can't hate on them as much because at least they're playing the game. Like you have to play the game a little bit. Getting back to the Instagram stuff, you kind of have to play the sales, marketing, promotion game a little bit. You can't just coach anymore. You can't just do one thing anymore and make it like here in Boston. And I know I'm jumping around a lot. Apologies, but like to live here in Boston, for example, and I know Cali and other places, like you're doing one thing, good luck. You better be doing like being the best in the world at it. And hopefully you have the right position that pays a lot. I think the entrepreneurial spirit, and you have it, obviously, you do so many great things, do things great. It's like if you don't have that, that to me is like you're going to fail. And I think what happens when they do fail, they're like, oh, we're going to a different profession. Well, did you actually like you said, did you overtrain? Did you go to the no? Okay, keep going. Like try something else.
What are the traits you see in the coaches that like, you must be at a point now within 5 minutes you're like, this guy's going to be all right, or this girl's going to be all right, or like first 5 minutes, like might be your time to get voted off the island, dog. Like, what are the things? And maybe they're intangible, but like,
Yeah.
hey, if someone says this, then they'll be sweet, or if someone knows this or has read this, like, how do you tell? Like, what's your subliminal vetting process to be like, you're going to be all right?
So the first one is like, like all the alphabet soup in our field, like these 3 letters, these 2 letters, these 4. If someone begins to talk about, well, the way that such and such does things, I'm like, all right, flick, like get away from me. Because if you can't consolidate material and put it in your own words, then you're fake in my opinion. Like you have to be able to like have your own methods and systems. Like if they don't fuse into that, then you're just basically copying and pasting, which I think is awful for a field. You're not using this. If you're not using that, like that's a problem, in my opinion. The other one is the person who like tries way too hard with way too much energy and enthusiasm. Energy is good, like positivity is good, but like if I'm like, hey Jordan, we're gonna fucking squat today, you're gonna be like, bro, like get away from me. But, hey yo, we're gonna hit the squat rack, let's get it. Just be simple with it. Like don't overdo it. You know what I mean? Like energy levels are important. Like just meet them where they're at, type of thing. I think the third one would be like, how do you present yourself? And this to me is like, oh, it's overlooked. People don't care. It's like, I think presentability is huge in a professional setting. Are your shoes tied? Do you have the proper attire on? Do you look the part? And I know this is not one of those things where it's like you'd think about that, but I think it's hugely important.
And in your case, do you have a Tyson shirt and really nice fresh pair of like one high tops on? I see.
I'm not wearing them right now because I sweat all the time, so I have shorts on. But I wore this just for you. But I have. Do you know the Lost and Founds?
Of course I
ones,
do. I like, yeah. Like, when you talk about when I like your post, it's probably that one. That's probably the most recent one I liked. I was like, yeah, the caption seems long, like the shoes.
That post, oh, the post with the suit, like that's totally not me. But I wanted to try to paint a picture to coaches, like you can do other things. You can be an entrepreneur and do other shit and still be a coach. So, but that's my spiel. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's funny. Like it kind of comes back to like authenticity, creative thinking, delivery. Like there's just the success leaves clues, and if you look at the people who are doing things well, and they tend to have an ability to do multiple things well because their skill sets apply laterally because they can think laterally, and I think that's something that like resistance training on the whole is something that the majority of the population wants to know about, whether it's athletes or whether it's general populations. Like people who work out, they know like now compared to 20 years ago, like, hey, there's something to this from a longevity standpoint, from a health standpoint. And you happen to have a particular vocation that is centered around this thing that is so commoditized in our world, yet there's not a focus on like the actual like delivery. Like, how do I get this across the aisle? How did I get this to land on, with the consumer? And I think it is tough because I think a lot of times people use misappropriated designation of sales being sleazy as a cop out for their inability to communicate effectively.
Yeah. Say
Right?
that
Like,
again, please. That was
I
perfect. That
don't
was
think I
freaking
could.
perfect.
I don't think I
That was
could.
perfect.
It's just, I read it off the
Dude,
teleprompter. Go.
communication is like, so there's, I work with her from time to time, more so years ago, but not as much anymore. Jenny Rarick, I think it's Fit to Speak. She works with she's worked for CFSC, but she travels, she speaks. She's a speaking coach, like a communications public speaking coach. She's also a strength coach and a trainer. And it's like she's a word ninja. She is an absolute weapon. Being critical with the words you choose, your enunciation, your palate, your speaker's box, your holding, like all these different things. It's like communication is so important. And that's why, like a lot of the classes I'll have my students, I'm like, all right, part of this assignment is shoot a couple YouTube videos and do this or that. And okay, get up in class and talk us through why you chose that exercise, like program design, whatever. And they're like, oh, I feel better. I feel more comfortable doing this behind a computer board, like a keyboard or whatever. So to me, communication is probably like this kind of plays its role into the soft skills, which we know Brett, like he hits that hammer all the time too. Brett Bartholomew. There are a lot of people talking about it, and I think it's overlooked, underappreciated. Can you effectively convey a message with your words? Because if you can do that, you probably have a better chance to build buy-in and trust with someone. They're going to do what you want them to do: squat heavy, deadlift, jump, sprint, whatever. If you can't articulate that, then like there's this. And so to me, it's like communication is, in my opinion, one of the top skills that I try to continue to refine.
Well, how do you audit that, right? Like, how do you audit when you're doing so many different things? Like, maybe let's start with this. When you look at all the things you do, is there a thing that you do that's your favorite and the thing that you do that's your least favorite?
Can I answer this can I answer your question with an answer to the previous, like what you were saying?
Absolutely.
My wife and my family, like if I can't effectively communicate with the people I spend the most time with and ask for their authentic feedback, like, hey, you came off a little strong there. You might want to tone it down a bit as she's walking by me right now. Like if she doesn't give me the green check mark, I'm like, shit, maybe I messed up here. So, and I know that sound like I spend the most time with my wife. I spend the most time with my family, my friends. And so like, that's my audit. Like that's my, I need to cater that message a different way. I need to have certain intent with that. And what you asked me was rewind. Sorry.
You're good. We can edit that out if you want. No, like what is a part of your job that you find in these audits, either external or internal, that you find that you either enjoy the most or enjoy the worst? Enjoy the least.
The lack of communication skills with young up and coming professionals. I'm talking exercise science, athletic training, S&C, PT, and like, dude, something simple as an email. Like when you hit me up on DM, right? You were like, "Yo, bro, here's a link. Sign up for my podcast." You were like,
I
"Hey,
should have.
just checking in." Yeah, you should have.
I
You
should
literally
have
that.
just big dogged you. Like, oh, you're not
Yeah,
busy.
yeah. No,
Should.
like it's like just simple communication skills. Like I'll get emails, right? Where do I do this? Excuse me, what's your name? What's the topic? What are we even talking about? And I'm like, well, I can't comprehend. And this is not me poo pooing on. I love our students. I'll run through a wall for our students, just like I would with our athletes. But it's like, hey, like present yourself properly. Like that to me is like, oh my gosh. So when they come meet with me, I will like, hey, Jordan, I'm gonna have you sit down. Just so you know, when you email me, I really appreciate if you did this and that. Now I know part of that's kind of like, oh, you don't need to be a hardo. I'm not trying to be a hardo. I'm more or less protecting them from the next person who might be a hardo. I'm saying, hey, look, I don't care. I'm cool with it. I have thick skin. I got no ego. You don't hurt my feelings. But if you're going to apply for a job or an internship or whatever, like you might want to do this and that. And I'm more or less looking out for them. So that's yeah.
Then what's your favorite part of the job?
The the young up and coming professionals who can communicate at a high level and they just get shit. Like I reached out today, so we're running an event on March 9th. I would plug it, but it's in Boston, so it's a little far away from you. But I reached out for I call them student all stars. I feel wrong. Hey, can you be our student helper? I mean, hey, join the all star squad. Hey, we need 12. I emailed 50 students. 10 of them got back within like literally momentarily before they got back within like 20 minutes. Yep, sign me up, sign me up. And these are the same students who always show up and show out. And to me, like that's so when you want to land an internship at, let's say, Sports Academy your senior year, I'm going to run through the wall and help you get that because of my connections. I may not do the same thing for the student who emails me, where do I find this? And that to me is like, I love the student who will do that. They show up, they show out, they're consistent because it adds up over time. It's like stacking wins for themselves.
Now, favorite part of the job, least favorite part of the job. Where do you see your skill set strongest? Where do you always feel as if, or maybe not always, but what part of your job now do you feel like, all right, based off of internal, external audits, based off of what I hear from my family or kind of how I feel when I communicate with others, where do you kind of, at a coach at your level, educator at your level, what are your biggest strengths and what are your biggest opportunities when you kind of appraise yourself? Because I think it's something where, you get to a level that you've got to, and a lot of people, they don't see the continual work that goes into staying there and evolving. Like this industry is, it's not for long. And if you sleep, like you're done. What are the things that you look at and go, hey, you know what? I'm not great at this part of my job, whether soft skills or hard sciences or whatever it is. And where do you feel like, no, I got this unlocked?
I'll start with my weakness, and I think that's lack of patience. And I'll be really specific here because I know it's a vague term. I operate in the sense that if I ask you for something or to do something, and I put a deadline on it, and if you don't get it done, I don't get mad at people. I just say, you know what, I'll do it myself, and I'll get it done. And so for me, the biggest thing that I've had to learn in the private sector of S&C and coaching and performance to academia is things. It's like a snail on molasses trying to go uphill, and like it's way too slow for me. So I need to be better about. I am a team player. Like I'll do whatever for the team, but it's being patient, more patient with people from the standpoint of like, hey, like maybe they got shit going on that they're not telling you about, and like just be chill about it. I'm not like maniacal about it, but I'm like, you know what? I won't even hit them up. I'll do it myself. Yeah, that might work for a few things, but as you know, you get way too busy. You need to be able to delegate things and to get stuff off my plate. And so I think I need to be better about that. Strengths would be getting shit done. Like if it's written down, it'll get done. I do not miss things. Like if I say I'll get it done, I put in my plan on my agenda, my calendar, whatever you want to call it, it gets done. Like that is 100% send it to the bank. It's going to get done. I'm very, very on top of that. Because like I said, I'm not the smartest. I'm not the best, but I'm very organized. And so for me, that's a strength. The other one you said, it wasn't a weakness, it wasn't a strength. It was more along the lines of like something to work on or.
Like an opportunity. Like where do you feel like,
Yeah,
just because that's both internal and external, right? Because there's
yeah.
the social dynamics of the job are so ever changing that, there are things that you might not have seen in years past to be a focus because it just wasn't part of the interplay of the job, that now
Yeah.
on the up and coming, it's like, okay, you know what? I need to focus more on this.
Yeah, I'd say leadership. I definitely say leadership. And I mean, I've been in leadership roles. I've co-owned the gym. I've been director, all that stuff. Like, I was awful at it. Like from an ownership standpoint, I like to think I'm an okay coach, but leading and like I think someone posted earlier, like a Kobe Bryant quote, which I could watch Kobe all day talk, and he talks about leadership. It's like it's not always pretty. It's going to be ugly at times. Not everyone's going to love you, and I think there's an aspect there where can you still be someone that people appreciate and like to be around, but can you assert yourself in a leadership role and leadership style that may not always be comfortable for people? Like, hey, I need you to do this, be there, and that time, let's go. And that might not be comfortable for a lot of people, but I think I can become better at that because I see an opening in my place of work. I see an opening in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years where I'm like, hey, like I want that, and how do I position myself to be the undeniable choice for that? We'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see what I can do.
Yeah, my two favorite quotes on leadership are leadership's more about taking the blame than taking the credit. And if you want to make people happy, sell ice cream, don't be a leader.
So that's the one I saw. And maybe you posted. I was like, yeah, this is so true. Like,
Yeah, I think
dude,
Josh.
the Jordan documentary, because I know it's called the Last Dance. I call it the Jordan documentary because it's all about Jordan. And he talks about like he's like, yeah, I was like people hated me, but like, what was I supposed to do? I wanted to win those championships, and people don't look at that side of things. Like it's going to be a little ugly at times. It's going to be uncomfortable, but if you want to be a leader, you have to do some of those pieces.
Yeah, especially in the strength and conditioning world where, it's before it was like kind of failed gym teachers. And now we see,
Yeah.
the integration of that into the broader, org chart of of an organization, right? Of institutions at the pro level. Like S&C coaches are starting to like wield more and more power, but it's like the old with great power comes great responsibility. It's like that's pretty much the equation for leadership. So it's not enough just to be able to like sit in a weight room and tell a bunch of teenagers how to work out. It's how do you actually develop the interpersonal business skills to be able to talk up and down the org chart and then communicate what you're doing effectively. Because I don't think people, because maybe they're just getting into it now. I would say the bulk of S&C coaches that identify as S&C coaches are probably have only been in the field for the last 5 years or so. And then there's just like the guys that they just found at the pro stadiums that were just there. And they're like, you want to be a strength coach? Like, sure, I'll never leave. And they've been there for like 30 years. But it's, people they don't see the evolution. And I think when you know a little bit about the history, you start to realize, wow, this is moving really fast. Like, because it was nothing for a long time. And then it was like gradual and then all at once. Because like there's real money to be made now. Like it's not just, a 60K a year job. I'm sure there's like, I don't know, I've seen high 6-figure strength coach jobs in the pro and especially the collegiate level. It's like, I don't think people realize the stakes or how high the stakes are for positions like this now. And if they did, I think they would start to take some of these they would start to take more of these intangibles and make them tangible. Because if you paid attention to an email header, a salutation, a sincerely, these things like, if you were applying for any job that was at a 6-figure plus $500,000 salary, you'd be like, I'm going to download Grammarly before I send this or some shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. But this is the problem, though, Jordan. This is the problem. I'm too cool for that, or I'm too much of a, like that. But that's what most strength coaches are met with. They're like, no, that's not for me. I don't need that. Like, and like it's this resistance. Like, it to me, it's wild. It's like, wait, you don't want to position yourself in a better spot to get a better job, to have a better life, to have more money, to more like it's to me, it's wild. It's the resistance because you travel a lot, you speak at courses. You know that prototypical strength coach, tough guy who probably works 6-7 days a week, and it's a guy, not a woman, because women are smarter, and they work 6-7 days a week. They're asking all the questions. And you're like, bro, chill. Like, just like you can do more and be better if you just like let go of the ego. Like, just check yourself with the ego. Like that to me is I can't get over it.
well, it is funny because it does always seem like it's the strong strength coach. I find even the moniker of performance coach, I anticipate a different conversation where someone identifies or designates as performance coach. I'm like, okay, this guy probably has a little bit more of a holistic approach. This isn't horizontal push, horizontal pull. And with that, it's like, I don't know. There's not a beating of the chest with people who have good 5K times. Like nobody gives a fuck, right? Like I don't even know what a good 5K time is, right? So, but it is such a weird intersection where there's some level of buy-in and meritocracy from athletes if you can walk in and bench 225 more than they can. But at a certain point, like that is a lot of strength coaches' best asset and also their biggest enemy is like, I have to have this. Like, no, I don't do emails. I send text messages from my Android phone, and it's like they show up in green. It's like, dog, get an iPhone. You want a job in this field? Get an iPhone. No one's reading that. I have a kid videographer guy. I don't talk to him. Why? Because he texts me on a regular phone. I was like, can you be a fucking adult, please? And get an iPhone so I don't have to read these green messages and I can text you from my computer. Like, it's a little shit, man. It's wild. Now, for you, being in and out of the private sector, in academia, in the lab, in the weight room, in the classroom, in the lecture halls, where do you see like your evolution? Like what does the next 16 years look like for you? Can you look that far ahead? Would 16 years ago you'd have predicted you'd be in the situation you have? Yes, written it down.
Well,
I'm sure.
hold on. Sorry, I didn't predict I'd be here, but if you're looking forward, I'd say leadership role within the college. So
Okay.
what's very difficult for me is letting go of the strength coach identity. Like that, I feel like everyone struggles. I mean, I know I struggle with that all the time. It's like, can I continue to call myself a strength coach if I'm only really coaching, under 10 hours a week, doing online stuff? Like, is that still S&C coaching? To me, I'm like, I feel comfortable with it. I feel comfortable with my skill set. But I would say a leadership role within the exercise science, sports science program whatever that title may be, and then potentially like at the college level, like into our college more on the administrative side. But that second part scares the crap out of me because like there's virtually no ability to do S&C coaching whatsoever if you're in like a lead administrative role, but there's more financial components there. And then I'd say a director type of role, exercise science, sports science, there's still some input on an S&C side. So that's where I would see myself going. I don't know that I would ever go back into full-time S&C for the reasons we've talked about, but also because, like, I don't know what the saying is. I'm awful at this, but we're talking about some issues that we're seeing and some pitfalls, right? And it's like we can continue to talk about it, not like the general we, or maybe I can go and fuse myself where the root of the problem is occurring, and hopefully I can make like 0.001% change at that level. So when they're back at this level we're talking about, maybe they're 0.0001% better. So that's how I view it.
Did you always foresee the evolution kind of having this Faustian bargain, this deal with the devil of like, hey, in order to make the change I want to make, I have to be the thing I didn't think I wanted to be? Like, did you see you ever, was there a point where you're like, nah, I'm cool in the gym? Or was it always like, all right, what's next? What's next? What's next?
No, my biggest downfall is that I care too much. So I didn't see it, but then as it was coming, I was realizing. And by the way, you're an absolute wordsmith. You're great at words, but so we can sidebar that. But for me, it's like my problem is that I care too much about things, and that was my downfall when I burnt out. And when I burnt out, I didn't touch a program for 3 months. I didn't talk to clients for 3 months. I didn't coach anyone for 3 months. I was just like, yep, oh, peace. Put on like 10 pounds. I was like, no, I'm out. My problem is that I care too much, and so as I began to shift, I'm like, well, I could see how this could be helpful, so let me give it a shot. And so it's been great. It's been great. I get to walk into class with a pair of Jordans on, Lululemon snacks, a nice Jordan polo. The students are like, "Yo, Jordan getting sick." I'm like, "Guys, take it easy. We're gonna learn about how to squat today." So it's fun, but it's an uphill battle. But that's if it's not a challenge, why are you doing something, right? Like, why are you trying?
Yeah, but there's a flip side of that. I see, like, I don't know, like you're cool and people want to be cool and people want to be like you. I've come across a lot of coaches, and I'm wondering if you're the same. And I don't want to dash people's dreams. I just want people to be self-aware. Like, I watch people, and from my vantage point, I go, dude, you're going to be miserable, right? The carrot of this higher level operational change that might be the 0.0001% that gets institutionalized, that leaves the game a little bit different than when you found it, is not a return on your investment. That's not what you want. Like, I think as we see S&C coaches, and this is where I see a lot of burnout. It's like people looking to promote themselves to failure out of some, keeping up with the Joneses type of behavior through like the window of social media. It's like, hey, you're a great coach and you can make the fucking bag. Like, you can go out to Michigan or Texas, or get in the pro ranks. Like, if you cut your teeth, like, there's $250,000 a year starting salary for you somewhere. You don't have to try and be this, hey, I'm going to speak at this, I'm going to develop this. And it's like, because you watch people get into it, it's like, are you being authentic? Like, kind of your number one rule. Like, are you being yourself? Because some people, their best self is the best coach I've ever fucking seen. 54 guys, active roster, crush a session, seamless, great communication, chameleons, in and out of different type of personalities, different types of situations, communicate to ADs, communicate to players, communicate to player coaches. And it's just like, do you come across people who are like, hey man, like you're good. Like, just be great at this thing. Like, it's okay. We need technicians. Or is that a tough communication to have as someone who's like, I don't want to say moved on or like ascended past that, but have you found yourself in a room where you're like, hey dog, like you're good. Like, you made it. Congrats.
Yes, I've been in that room several times, and part of me is like, should I say something? Should I not? Am I in a position where I can say something? And I always tend to like let it come to me. If it becomes an opening where they make conversation about it, and I see an opening where it's not threatening to them, I'll say something. But I'm a firm believer in, like, I don't like to give unsolicited advice. Like, I'm not that person. But if you ask me, I'm going to be really direct with you, and I'm not going to sugarcoat stuff. So that's been my approach. And I to be honest with you, Jordan, I've seen it more and more. Like I'm going to an NSCA state conference. I'm not speaking. One of my a kid who was an athlete of mine, played running back at Springfield. He interned for me. He worked for me. Great kid. He went on to like UNC. He went on to Iowa. He's speaking for the first time at NSCA. This is a big deal for him. So I'm gonna go there and I'll learn. But I'm almost kind of like I know I'm gonna see those people that we're referring to. I'm like, shit. What do I say to them? Like, fuck. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go there with the hood on.
Did you ever? Maybe not. Did you ever? But at what point did you realize that you were in the people business?
Honestly, when I started working, this is probably 12 years ago. I had just interned at Boyles, and I had that conversation with my pops, like, "You're not going to become a personal trainer. You're going to make money." And he didn't know, and I started working at a PT clinic, and everything went from like slowed way down, and I had to talk to one-on-one people. Like I was, like, it wasn't groups of athletes. It was like because I was still doing that, but I was one on one in a clinical setting as a rehab aide, rehab tech, whatever you want to call it. And I was like, well, it's me and him or me and her. Like, if I can't, like, what am I supposed to do here? So that's where I began to realize, oh, wait, like, they're doing what I'm asking them to do. We're having conversation. They're communicating. They're getting their rehab done. They're getting back to their sport. They're getting back to whatever. And for me, like, I needed things to slow down to be able to understand it, to apply it. Because I'm awful at textbooks. Like I can't read a textbook and apply. I have to do things. So I think through that early like PT rehab aid work, and I didn't go to PT school, never got in, but that helped me realize, hey, like I think this communication, like social skills, intra and interpersonal skills, is kind of a thing. And then when people like Brett and Jenny and other people start talking about talking and the validity of it, I think it's like, okay, like stamp of approval. Maybe this is important stuff.
Now, outside of the kind of the roadmap you have set out at higher levels in sort of the educational institution, well, what else? Like, what else excites you? What's on your roadmap for the 10,000 other things you got going on?
It's a great question, bro. You're really good at questioning. Slowing things down,
Interesting.
but still staying fast. If that makes any sense at all.
It doesn't, but try.
Okay, if we like, I would say consolidating a lot of things in my life, which I've begun to do so far. Because like when you're doing all these things, there's a tipping point, like quality's going down. Shit, like what do we do here? So I've gotten to the point where I'm very comfortable saying no to people. I was very uncomfortable doing that a couple years ago. I'm like, hey, yep, sorry, I can't do that. Plate's full, not available for that. So I think saying no more, consolidating what I'm doing, slowing down more, enjoying people's company more, while still possessing the ability to be fast when I need to.
I like it. Now, for those interested in reaching,
hopefully that landed.
No, it's good. It's good. It's good. I mean, I would have expected the slowing down and like family stuff from a Lebanese Italian. I mean, that should kind of go.
Well, let me just say this. Maybe there's some multiplication coming soon. Maybe there is.
Oh, it's like that. Okay, you heard it. You heard it here. You heard it here first. No, man, I appreciate you taking the time. I think it's always refreshing to hear. I think for a long time people thought that specialization was for insects, and that being really good at one thing left you without options, where I think it's always nice to talk to people who've super specialized and it's actually given them more options, right? And I think that's where a lot of people veer away from the profession at large, is they think it puts them in a box or puts them in that room, that 4x4 walls like you talked about earlier, where actually it blows the doors right off it and gives you kind of limitless opportunity, and you're an embodiment of that. So dude, I appreciate you taking the time to chat and rap and tell the stories, and it's always exciting it's been too long since the last time we connected, so we'll have to make sure we make a habit of it. But for the usual Instagram or the usual podcast rap thing, where can people find you, DM you, bug you, do the Charlie Weingroff impression and just blow up your DMs?
Yeah. Just Mathew Ibrahim. There's an underscore there at the end, unfortunately, because someone took my name. Best place to hit me up on Instagram. That's it. And I'll get back to you and we'll have fun. And Jordan, thank you, bro. I mean, I'm a huge fan. I know we met a couple years ago, but I love your work. I love what you do. I think you're making a big impression on the field. What you're doing with prescript, your coaches, your education, keep going. Like to me, it's much needed. The biggest thing that I get from seeing what you do is it's a non BS approach. It's just direct to the point, gets results. So I would love to link up at some point in person. We'll make it a habit. Just keep doing it, man. I love, I'm rooting for you big time.
Appreciate it, man. I'm going to clip all the nice shit you said and have my guy put that in a reel. Just put that up instead. So no, I appreciate it, man.
Hey, step one, be authentic. Step one, be authentic. I'm sure that's it.
Real. I appreciate it, man. Thanks so much.